50,000 years ago, somewhere on this planet, at least 6 different human species are alive at the same time, sharing forests, coastlines, and the same hunting grounds. Then, one by one, they disappear. Not from disease alone, not from climate alone, not even from bad luck. The real explanation was something you'd never expect, something scientists almost didn't believe. And once they figured out what it was, it shattered everything we assumed about how we became the only ones left. So, the question that should keep you up at night is not how they died, it is why we lived. That's what we're about to uncover. Stick around and subscribe to The Buried Layer so you never miss what's buried next. 50,000 years ago, Earth was not ours alone. If you could travel back to that moment, you would find a planet shared by multiple kinds of humans. Neanderthals, that is, a closely related human species with larger brains than ours and far stronger bodies, had already been living across Europe and Western Asia for over 200,000 years. They were not primitive cave dwellers. Research published in the journal Nature in 2010 by Dr. Svante Pääbo and his team at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology confirmed that Neanderthals buried their dead, used ochre, a red pigment, as body paint, and may have created jewelry. At the same time, in the island of Flores in what is now Indonesia, a tiny human species called Homo floresiensis, nicknamed the Hobbit because it stood only about 1 meter tall, was hunting pygmy elephants with stone tools. On the opposite side of the world, in Siberia, a group now called the Denisovans, identified only in 2010 from a single finger bone, was thriving in freezing cold environments that should have been impossible to survive. And then there was us, Homo sapiens, which means wise human in Latin, had emerged in Africa roughly 300,000 years ago. We were not the biggest, we were not the strongest. In a straight physical contest against a Neanderthal, most scientists believe we would have lost badly. Yet, we are here. They are not. The timing of each extinction is deeply suspicious. Neanderthals disappeared roughly 40,000 years ago, within a few thousand years of modern humans arriving in Europe in large numbers. Homo floresiensis vanished around 50,000 years ago, which overlaps with the earliest evidence of modern humans reaching Southeast Asia. The Denisovans fade from the record around the same period. This pattern has not gone unnoticed. Dr. Chris Stringer of the Natural History Museum in London has spent decades studying human origins. He describes the arrival of Homo sapiens in any region as consistently followed by the disappearance of whatever human species was already there. This is not a fringe theory. It is one of the most heavily discussed patterns in all of paleoanthropology, that is, the scientific study of ancient human fossils. But here is where it gets unsettling. We did not simply replace them. The genetic evidence, confirmed repeatedly since Pääbo's landmark 2010 study, shows that modern humans outside of Africa carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. Populations in Southeast Asia and the Pacific carry Denisovan DNA in some cases up to 6%. This means we did not just meet these other species, we had children with them. We absorbed pieces of them into ourselves. The people who then outlived them carried part of their genetics forward. So the relationship was not purely one of conquest. It was complicated, the way human relationships always are. Scientists have proposed several theories, and it is important to be clear that these are theories, not settled facts, for why Homo sapiens survived when others did not. The first theory centers on language. Dr. Noam Chomsky and many linguists have long argued that modern humans developed a uniquely complex form of language, one capable of describing things that do not exist yet. You can tell someone about a plan for next winter. You can describe a god, a law, a story. This kind of abstract communication may have allowed Homo sapiens to organize in much larger groups than any other human species. Neanderthals almost certainly communicated, but whether they could plan the future, trade across long distances, or build social networks of hundreds of strangers is genuinely unknown. The second theory involves what anthropologist Dr. Henrik Joseph of Harvard University calls cumulative culture, that is, the ability to build knowledge across generations. Each generation of Homo sapiens did not start from scratch. They inherited tools, techniques, and and stories from those who came before and added to them. This is the foundation of all technology. If Neanderthals had this ability, they had it to a lesser degree. Their tools changed very little over hundreds of thousands of years. The third theory is darker. Some researchers, including Dr. Jared Diamond in his book The Third Chimpanzee, have argued that Homo sapiens may have directly contributed to the extinction of other human species through violence and competition for resources. This does not mean organized warfare. Even slow displacement pushing competitors away from the best hunting grounds, the warmest valleys, the most reliable water sources over thousands of years could have been enough. But here is where it gets unsettling again. None of these theories fully explains the outcome. Neanderthals had survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and climate swings that would have destroyed most modern civilizations. They were not fragile. They had endured for 200,000 years before we arrived. Whatever ended them was something they had never faced before, and the most likely candidate is us. The physical evidence is stark. At a site called Les Rois in France, researchers found Neanderthal bones that had been processed, cut, and scraped in exactly the way animal bones are processed for food. This discovery, published in the Journal of Anthropological Sciences in 2009, raised deeply uncomfortable questions. It does not prove that modern humans ate Neanderthals, but it does prove that someone treated Neanderthal bodies the way prey is treated. At Zafaria Cave in Spain, Neanderthals survived until approximately 28,000 years ago, thousands of years after they had disappeared elsewhere. This small pocket population likely represents a group pushed to the very edge of their range by competition with incoming Homo sapiens. They held on in isolated southern refuges, that is, protected areas, before vanishing entirely. The last confirmed Neanderthal site dates to around 24,000 years ago in Gibraltar. It is a narrow peninsula at the southern tip of Spain. They had nowhere left to go. Dr. João Zilião of the University of Barcelona has argued passionately that Neanderthals should be considered a human culture, not just a species, that they had symbolism, art, and ritual. This view is gaining ground. The extinction of the Neanderthals is increasingly discussed not just as a biological event, but as something closer to the end of a civilization. Here's the strange comfort buried inside this story. The Neanderthals did not disappear entirely. They live on in us. The immune system genes that many modern humans carry, genes that help fight off certain diseases, come from Neanderthal DNA absorbed during interbreeding. Denisovan DNA in Tibetan populations today includes a gene variant that allows those people to live at extreme altitudes with low oxygen levels. That gene came from Denisovans, who had adapted to high mountain environments over thousands of years. We absorb their strength, their adaptations, their biology. Dr. Tony Capra of the University of California, San Francisco, published research in 2021 in the journal Science, showing that specific segments of Neanderthal DNA influence how modern humans respond to pain, blood clotting, and mood disorders. We carry their legacy in ways we are only beginning to understand. Here's what this story actually means, and why almost no one says it plainly. We are not the pinnacle of human evolution. We are the survivor. Those are very different things. A survivor is not always the best, the smartest, or the most deserving. A survivor is the one left standing after a combination of advantages, circumstances, and, sometimes, actions that are difficult to be proud of. The extinction of the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and Homo floresiensis happened within living cultural memory of the humans who caused or witnessed it. Somewhere in the deep past, people told stories about the others, the different ones, the ones who are gone now. Those stories have been lost. But the DNA has not been lost. Every person reading these words, who is of non-African descent, carries a small piece of a species that no longer exists. We walk around carrying the dead. This matters for how we think about ourselves today. For most of human history, we have told ourselves a story in which we are special, chosen, inevitable. The fossil record does not support that story. What the fossil record shows is a crowded world of multiple, intelligent, feeling, socially complex beings, and then a rapid, suspicious wave of disappearances that follows a single species wherever it goes. The real lesson of human origins is not that we were destined to survive. It is that survival came at a cost we have never fully accounted for. In understanding that cost, understanding what we may have done, what we lost, and what we absorbed, might be the most important thing we can learn about what it means to be human at all. We are not the end of the story. We are the last chapter of a book that was much longer and much richer than we ever admitted.